Ciao, Tony, and nice to talk to you after like, I don't know, 20 years we spoke.
Oh, feels like that, but it's more like 10.
10. Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay. So, well, I aged like it was 20. So, because I gained weight and my face is puffy. Anyway, you've done a lot of things. So I'll try to analyze what you did from my perspective, which is always kind of change of society, innovation. So I'm just going to do a quick keyword thing about your life, and then you can go in details. So you were a famous hurler, which is an Irish sport. And I learned about that sport from you. Then your father passed away, and from lung cancer, and then you cycled across Canada to collect money for cancer research, as I understood. And then we worked on I think promoting your book, promoting yourself on a bunch of like also nonprofit projects in Ireland. And one of the last things you've done is you had a charity working with teenagers, helping them, develop their confidence and just grow, in Ireland. I saw the map on the website. I think you had like 1,000 little locations and workshops around Ireland. And now you're back at writing. Sorry, you wrote a bestseller in Ireland. Yeah, sorry, I forgot that. So you have it here, Screaming at the Sky. And now you're writing a second book, Teenagers Guide to Life.
Yeah, exactly.
That's it. And so you're back at writing. So what I noticed about your career is that you are trying to do something, and you're a very expressive person. So I picked up kind of the energy that your motivation. And I'm guessing that it's like you're trying to change things around you. And you're trying to find different ways what's going to be the best way, because I see that the books the book you wrote and the book you're writing, they're kind of like I think very inspiring books, trying to change other people. The organizations, the way you organize people, the projects you manage, are also again changing people, making things for better. And so I haven't met. I mean, I met a lot of people. I haven't met anybody who is constantly, decade after decade, constantly dedicated to this. So I don't know. That am I close to the point? Does that
very good? Very good assessment.
Yeah.
Freud wouldn't have done as good a job as you've just done there.
Yeah. So because I'm trying to do the same thing, and I'm mostly talking. And I spoke with some people who really did big things, and in these interviews, and they still have the same thing. Like they're never happy, And you've done also great stuff. You were a top athlete, I think, in Ireland, and so you're writing the book. So what do you want this book to change? You said it's going to be a bestseller, which probably it will be, like your previous one.
Yeah, well, bestseller in Ireland is small, but it's actually it's been being bought in, or I think it's 20 countries so far, which I'm surprised by. Like my motivation, first of all, thank you for having me, Nicola. It's a real pleasure to talk to someone who's interested in nearly everything. It's just a joy. It's a joy to get the opportunity. The reason I wrote the book is in 2008, I had a breakdown, and it was culminated in, I suppose, not understanding myself, my father dying, not being able to be there at the last minutes, then cycling the bicycle across Canada. We raised over €1 million and gave it away, but I was like exhausted mentally and physically. And I didn't really know how to process this grief that I was feeling. And so I kind of just fell to pieces and spent around 2 years putting myself back together and trying to assemble the fragmented pieces of my psyche and heart back together. And when I did, I said, why did I not learn any of this in school? Well, like, why did I learn all this stuff I don't remember? And yet when I need something the most, I don't have it. So then I started working with teenagers. I didn't plan it. It just happened. Around the time we met, I used to go into schools being asked to talk about hurling or the cycle, but I always felt I'd like to hear from them. So we scoured the world and we found a model in Melbourne in Australia that trained 20-year-olds, like 24, 25, 26, to facilitate programs. They didn't talk at the young people. They created an environment where young people felt they want to talk, but honestly, not like talk with their persona, but talk really genuinely. And this model, I traveled to Melbourne, sold my car, got money together, went down. I was blown away by what I saw. I said, like, this is the future. Like, this is what school teaching is going to be like in 30 years' time. So brought it back to Ireland, and then it just took off. We trained facilitators. I had to learn quickly what that even meant. So I went from, you know, I found acting coaches in New York, or psychologists in California, or wherever I could find people who knew more than I did, which was, those types of people are everywhere, because I didn't know much at the time about the how to facilitate people to arrive at their own truth. So basically, we set up SOAR, and it just took off. It was the right time. Ireland was in the grip of the global financial crisis. There was mental health problems spiraling. Ireland had the highest teenage suicide rate, 4th highest in Europe at the time. Oh. So SOAR just worked. It worked. Now, unfortunately, I went from being at the coalface to being up in the top office as CEO, away from what I love most, which was creating the programs, asking the questions, having the conversation. So eventually, I just said to myself, after 9 years, this isn't me anymore. Like, I'm now a CEO, you know, and a politician. I don't want to be that. So I said, well, what do I want? What does Tony want? And it was to go back inside myself, to go back studying, go back reading, go back writing. And then one morning, I just said to myself, what if I put all that down in a book for teenagers? Like the book that isn't on the curriculum in school. What if I wrote that just doesn't exist? And then over 9 weeks, it just flooded out. I found a brilliant artist, and she did all the illustrations, and I did the writing. And together we created a book that teenagers are reading, which is rare. Their parents are picking up and reading it, and then they're having conversations together about the book that they say they would never have had, because usually parent is up here, teenagers down here, and whereas when they're discussing the book, they're on the same level. So I suppose I wrote the book for the teenager in me, the teenager in you, that needed more, didn't get it. And I think that there should be a better way for young people to go from child to adult, so that it isn't sometimes as painful as it is. Okay. And so the problem that you're solving, because sometimes I talk to people in companies, and they're solving some problems with their products, and sometimes I'm talking to people like you who just see a problem that is outside company scope. Like companies cannot deal with that, and it's not a commercial problem. So you're solving a problem which is probably a big problem. What's the problem that you want to solve? How do you want to improve things? I think the primary problem that I'm attempting to solve with the book is to give young people a map to guide them through a very difficult, what can be a very uncertain period in a human being's life. And there's kind of subsidiary problems with small p's coming out of that. It's the problem that parents and teenagers don't know how to talk to each other. And they're disconnected, and they go through a period in their life where sometimes the connection they had as a child and a parent never comes back. So that problem is, the book is like almost like a map to guide the parents and teenagers through a difficult territory, a difficult period in life, where they can actually have a stronger relationship as a result of the book being that middle ground, that safer space between them, and common ground. Because the book's about being human. It's not about being a parent or a teenager. It's about what it means to be alive. Yeah. Well, that's a big problem. Big problem. I'm thinking like, wow, I'm going to call my daughter now to come down. Maybe let me just see if she wants to come down and say hi. You make me feel like I want to talk to Sophie immediately. Let me just tell her. Sorry, I'm not joking. Maybe she can say hi. Okay, all right, love her. What age is Sophie? What? What age is she? How old is she? She's 15. I have three kids. Marco is 6, George is 10, and Sophie is 15. Oh, wow. I'd love to make sure she gets a copy of the book. Yeah. And, but I was just thinking, like that I'm a bit childish. I'm thinking like, okay, we are celebrating, people are celebrating someone like Elon Musk for, I don't know, talking about going to Mars. And I think that's a very small problem compared to the children, talking to teenagers, as a father,
I mean, that's you would need a little bit more money than Elon Musk can work, you know.
Yeah, true.
But I'm just trying to imagine the world where, you know, the kids are talking to parents and there is no, being someone who has trouble with my parents. I'm 43. I have trouble with my parents. I don't have trouble with my kids, but maybe that's a bad thing, because if you think you don't have trouble, you might have trouble, worse trouble, because you don't know it. But anyway, I mean, congratulations. That's like, I think I'm also trying to handle a big problem in the world, you know, like to open up innovation and design. So that's also a huge problem, you know. So I guess as we get more in life, we try to pick bigger and bigger problems. Our ambition is bigger, you know. So
it's funny you say that though, because when I started SOAR, like there was two of us that started it, and I remember thinking this is going to change the world. And then a few years in, I said, no, actually, this isn't going to change the world, but it's going to change a few people's lives, maybe, and that's okay. So with the book, it's funny. I have this real, even though I'm enthusiastic about it, I'm very much detached from what it does. Like someone emails the website and says, you know, it's amazing. I'm reading it with my daughter in bed, and we'd stopped talking, and now we're back talking, and we discussed the book. And they're great. If that's what you got from it, great. But I think I'm 40 now, 40 this year. And I said, you know, I'm not going to try and change the world anymore. I'm just going to do what I love doing.
yeah.
And if people benefit, great. And if they don't, that's okay too.
Yeah, that's because the reason I did my previous two startups, and they were focused on helping people train, get access to coaching and losing weight and getting fit, because I was obese. And then it's like, it sounds very stupid when I tell it, but you know, my father told me, like, maybe you should exercise. And then I started exercising, and I just went from like a really fat guy to, you know, the usual story, like doing Ironmans and all that stuff.
Wow.
And that was a positive experience for me. And then I started, because I know how to make software, and then, you know, I know how to make a company and get all the people together, and I was very passionate. So, and then I kept making companies, trying to you know, scale it to help everybody go through that experience, you know, even though there is like already 100, I mean, why not 105, 102? I mean, there is like 8 billion people in the world, why not? And but then when I started making a company which is more focused on making money, I was a little bit bored, you know, it was not like close to the heart. And now I'm back doing something that I feel unbelievably passionate about. Like, you know, like there is some trouble. Like if I crash a car, I would be like, oh, I crashed the car, but I need to solve this thing. You know, it's like I'm still thinking about the problem, you know, like whatever happens, my mind is 100% on this.
Yeah.
And so I can relate to that. I think it's really nice that you've done something, and now you went even deeper to what you want. And then fuck it, you know, whatever happens, happens.
That's it, man. And like it started for me, I had 13,000 words of another book written, which was part novel, and I was really enjoying it. But one day it just stopped coming. And then a friend of mine asked me for a quote for teenagers. He's a school teacher. And I said, man, teenagers don't need another quote from some old guy. But then I was out driving with a new baby at the time. Well, he was maybe a month old. He's now 11 months old. And I was out driving around the mountains in a part of Ireland, national park called Wicklow, which is really beautiful. And it was Maytime. And I just every evening, he wouldn't sleep. He had colic. So I'd take him driving. He'd sleep for an hour. And that mean I could just, you know, sit in my car for an hour as I drove going, oh my God, at least we have a break. My wife has a break. And then this quote kept coming to me every evening. I'd go out there. That's the quote. And the quote starts the book. And the quote is, the most important relationship you'll ever have is with yourself. Every other is secondary. Yeah. And I really think that's what the book's all about. It's about what's your relationship with yourself like. Yeah. And when I look back through my life, I didn't really have one. I was this high performing athlete. Then I was like doing all this cycling, all this stuff, but I didn't really know me. You know, I didn't know who I was. And I still don't, but I'm curious about how we get to know ourselves better.
Yeah, yeah. So who are you?
It's a cool question. Like I could give you the, you know, the CV, the resume answer. You know, I'm a dad. I'm a father of two boys. I'm enthusiastic, all that stuff. But like, I know this may sound out there, but it doesn't either, because like I think it's just what we all know deep down. I've come to realize I'm actually a soul having a physical experience, and not just Tony, this guy in Ireland doing all this stuff. I'm much more than that. And you know, I can't remember who he was. Maybe it was Young or someone said something.
So this is, sorry to interrupt you, this is my teenager.
Hi. Hi, how are you?
Good, thanks.
Nice to meet you. I love that hoodie.
Yeah.
What?
Hoodie.
I like your hoodie. I'm saying I'd wear that. If I had that, I'd wear it.
Yeah, it's one of my favorites.
Yeah.
It's really cool. I love the flowers. It's really
Oh, I actually had a flowery shirt and I changed to black to appear more professional in an interview with you.
You
So-
should change. You should swap.
Yeah.
A bit bigger, yeah. So
Yeah.
Sophia, Tony is trying to solve the problem of parents talking to teenagers and that. So I told him that's a really big problem he wants to solve. Yeah. Do you think we need to solve
Talking
that?
back to teenagers.
Not talking back to teenagers, talking with teenagers. He wants to improve communication between parent or a step
Not
parent.
talking enough to kids.
Exactly.
Yeah. What do you think about that?
I think it is a problem, and
And you don't want to say,
I want to say what?
I don't know.
What's your first name? What's your name?
Sophia.
Sophia, nice. So you see, I wrote this book, Sophia, because I realized that I didn't really know my parents. They didn't really know me, but even though we got on, but I learned something that teenagers like you are really, really fucking wise. And you know so much stuff that your parents don't realize you do. And we've got to learn from you. We've got so much to learn from you if we knew how.
How can we learn from this?
Through conversation.
Okay.
Yeah.
We can prepare a PowerPoint presentation.
Ah, no.
By today at 2 p.m. I want a power
2
presentation.
p.m.
Yes.
I have a test of. Oh geez, I don't think I'll make it.
Okay.
That's okay. No, it's a book, and in the book, my son, who's called Romy, and my younger son, who's called Bear, they talk to each other the whole way through the book, and they talk about how kids are so wise, but adults know a lot of stuff, but they're not necessarily wise.
Okay. That's good. That reminds me, when I told Marco what we do, I told him we make websites and stuff. We make software. He says, well, do you have an app on the App Store? I said, no. Well, does anybody visit your website? It's like, not many people. It's like, what are you doing then?
Who is this wise man?
It's
He's like
2 seconds.
Yoda from Star Wars.
Yeah. Destroyed in 2 seconds, destroyed my life work. It was very hard to explain. I'm like in the middle of it. I just need like, give me a bit more time. It's like, okay, let me know when it's done.
And he's just saying, Dad, you're so not cool.
Yeah. No, for them, I'm the worst dad ever.
Yeah, but so am I for my sons. That's part of it.
I think you're the worst dad ever. I just-
I'm a stepdad. I'm a stepdad. This is where, I'm a stepdad. I'm sorry.
So
I'm the worst. I'm the best stepdad, maybe the worst dad, but the best stepdad.
I only have one stepdad, so I can't really tell. I don't have anybody to compare you to, but as a dad, I think you fit the role.
Okay.
that's nice. That's
That's a
nice.
compliment. Yeah.
That's a major
compliment. On YouTube stuff. This is not a meeting. I'm recording this and it's going to be on YouTube.
Well,
Yeah.
I'm interviewing Tony. Is a famous athlete, famous author, famous non-profit entrepreneur from Ireland, one of the top famous people.
I'm a terrible dad.
Yeah. And a terrible dad.
And a terrible cook.
This is a live interview. This is going to be
you should put a
when
terrible
his
dad
book
in your-
when his book goes up. People are going to be looking at this YouTube right here now.
I'm
And
glad you told me. I really did not fix my hair.
Well, you look great. And that hoodie, we all want that hoodie.
yeah. Okay.
There can't be enough like flowers on in the world. So like, why not more?
Why not?
You'll have to tell your dad where you got it so I can get an extra large for me.
I have one. Yeah.
You have the same
Mine
hoodie?
is
I
6XL.
don't know H&M. I don't know. where.
H&M. I like H&M.
It's been a while.
Cool.
And so, Sophie, where do you go to school?
In Belgrade, it's the 4th Belgrade Gymnasium. And
Okay.
I have a test and one, so I will have to review my notes.
Oh,
And
wow. What's the test on?
what?
What's the test on? What's it about? Math. Do you like math?
Not the biggest fan, but it has to be done.
Yeah, I know. That's the thing. I remember going to university in Canada for the first time, and I had to do physics, and I'd never done physics in high school. And the first 3 or 4 weeks, I used to cry going to the lectures. I was like, oh shit! I would sit feeling like an absolute idiot here.
Yeah. I think all those things were invented by the lobby of math and physics tutors.
Yeah,
They're making a fortune, tutoring all the kids.
I know. It's all made up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sophia, so do you need to study? Or?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much for this
You should
interview.
do the interview for your dad.
Yeah. Bye.
Ciao.
Bye, Sophia.
This book, Sophia. You remember this book?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Okay, so thank you for facilitating that communication with me. Okay.
Oh,
She actually has we have a 4-level house, so
okay.
she has a top level, which is kind of like an apartment. So
That's brilliant.
I never see her.
That's good though. In a way, that's okay. That's
yeah.
what we do. She's comfortable around you, which is great. You can see that.
Yeah. No, I guess so. We have a lot of things that are in common. Like we like the same movies. We like. She actually plays with Lego. I play with Lego. We have our entire living room is dedicated to Lego because.
Oh my God. My son just built the Millennium Falcon in 6 hours. And
which one? The top one, the adult edition or the?
It's like he told me this morning. There's another one that he wants to get, which is the bigger one.
Ah, okay. So yeah, there is the one that costs €1,000. There is the one that costs €100. So,
yeah, he did the €100 one.
Yeah, we did that one. Yeah, those are nice. They're all nice. Yeah.
He's obsessed with Lego. He will do anything to get money for Lego. Like he goes down to the end of our road. We live in the countryside, and he sells hens' eggs to strangers that are passing. Like me or my wife sit with him, usually my wife, and he sells just for money for Lego.
No, Lego is great. We've been collecting. I mean, we took 3 dinner tables. So and we added like shorter, how do you call them, legs. So they're like half a meter from the ground. Cool. And we put them together into like a huge platform. And we put the big gray Lego plates on it. I think 24. That cost like €200-300 just to cover them all with plates.
Wow.
And it's like a huge place where they can build worlds and everything. And all the shelves are just full of Legos. And under the table are the boxes of color-coded Legos. And it just added up over 5 or 6 years. Sorry?
How does your partner feel about all this?
She likes Lego as well, and
wow.
I mean, it's definitely. I mean, instead of having a TV in the living room, it's better to have something where they interact. So we don't have a TV. We have a TV only in our bedroom, and that's very hard for them to access. They cannot come in and watch TV anytime they want. No, we don't have. Our living room is a kids' room, so it's like a playground, Lego playground, like a place, like a Lego store. So
someday, Nicola, I must get you to FaceTime me or something when Jerome is with me, so that you can show him. He would love to talk to you about this.
Yeah. I mean, you can visit. Anyway, let's go back to the interview. It seems like we should have had a chat before because we're getting. Anyway, this is a good interview. Anyway, so as I said, raw. Uncut, everything's so you're solving this problem. So, and another thing that I noticed is that, for example, my medium is software, like meaning websites. I'm happy that websites can now be software, but basically I like things on internet. And I've been making those things since like 90s, and but your medium is books, and I try to write books, and it just doesn't feel like my medium, not that I don't believe in it, but I'm asking you, like, how far, because websites and software are limited, you have to work within certain rules for them, they're very expensive to make. You have to fund them yourself or later get some funding, but basically you have to find the money to make them work. And people have certain expectations, that limit what you can do, so you're working under certain rules. And books, how do books work? How far do you think a book can take your idea and change the, like, are you going to change, stupid to use percentages, but like 5% of people, 10%, or do you think a book can reach 100%?
Well, I've thought a lot about this. I'm glad you've asked that, because that book that you showed, Screaming at the Sky, that was a bestseller in Ireland, but that's 15,000 copies. That's tiny, You know, that's one district in Belgrade or wherever. It's tiny. So yet it's amazing how far that got, the ideas in it got. So when I thought about this, I didn't plan to write something to solve any problem. Consciously, I didn't. I just knew from going into schools, thousands of schools, listening to 50,000 teenagers, there's something they're not getting in this age, in the system, the school system, that they need, that we all need for life, for the ups and downs of life. So I said to myself, what if I wrote something? But I didn't really plan any big change. Now, what I've realized is that book was published through a very large publisher, one of the biggest in the world. And I just felt there was very little autonomy about how I went about the process. So this time I set up my own publishing company called Soul Place Publishing and self-published it, found a number of patrons who were willing to fund it, without which I wouldn't have been able to do it. And so I owned all the rights. So what do you do then? How do you get the ideas in the book? Because look, only a certain type of teenager is going to read the book. Mostly probably parents are going to read it more and they're going to go, shit, actually, I could talk to my teenager like this. And they'd respond, maybe I'm not talking at the right level. So it's really a book for parents in a lot of ways. But then I'm recording the audiobook at the moment. So maybe some teenagers will listen to that. We're recording the audiobook first as a Spotify playlist. So, you know, Sophia or anyone else can just put on their earphones and listen to parts of the book broken into small chunks, 1 minute long, 3 minutes long, as a playlist. My ultimate goal for the book, if it is to reach a large audience, is to gamify it, where it's turned into a piece of curriculum, but using technology. So it's animated and it's gamified so that it can be used by teachers as a teaching tool, or an ed tech company as content.
Okay,
that's the only way it will proliferate and travel around the world, I can see, but who knows.
Well, the coronavirus crisis was a great opportunity, because you know what I got upset in Serbia is that they went straight to Google and just got whatever Google had. You know, just like many companies, they all like, okay, we need something digital now. They were resisting digitalization for like decades, and suddenly they have to do it in like 2 days. And they went to Google, Microsoft, or you know, someone similar, but basically Google and Microsoft. Instead of actually investing in local companies being innovative, you know, just waiting out. I mean, if they gave companies at least 3 months and half of the money they're giving Google, you know, they will have like a bunch of like more local, more specialized products, you know. And now all the kids like Sophia, I mean, she's been doing classes for like a year. And it's all in the Google environment. Georgia as well. I mean, they're basically Google kids, you know, because they go to the Google Classroom, I think it's called, and they're, you know, that's what they know, you know, they're in the Google thing. And it would be great to have, you know, some alternatives, you know, but now is the moment, I guess, for all that tech stuff. And but how would that work, you know? So kids would access that on mobile phones or something. That would be part of a class, or is that
class? Most education systems in every country around the world now have some form of well-being in there, and it's usually teachers talking. You know, they have notes and they're talking to the kids about well-being, but they're pulling it from various sources. Whereas the way I've written the book is, it's like teenagers feel it's written for them. But if a parent reads it, they relate to it because it's speaking to the teacher in them. So how it would probably work is to be a certain amount of perhaps animation for some parts of the book, where, you know, it's brought to life through animation. Then there's some parts which maybe are AI, and the teenager goes into a virtual world where they've got to solve some of the problems. Say, for example, around what to do with anger. You know, what you do when, especially for boys, but girls too, when you want to smash your room up because you're angry. So you might go into a virtual world where you win points for coming up with more positive ways to channel your anger. That might be in painting, or it might be in Lego, or it might be in something else. But you've got to come up with solutions yourself rather than be given them by experts.
What I like, for example, I have to say that I'm not a fan of things that make things virtual, but I like when software is connecting people. Like we are connected now with Zoom, you know. So something that I like is if it facilitates, as you said, communication between different people. Maybe someone who went through those problems and can maybe share it. Yeah, I don't full automation. Yeah.
I'll give you an example. There's a school in the south of Ireland, very progressive school, and they heard about the book. Teacher read it, and she now has me delivering a class. So I'm not a teacher, I don't have a teaching qualification, but I know that book inside out, and it's based on listening to 50,000 teenagers. So now they're getting me to teach the class about the book. So I broke it into four sessions, and we use Zoom, and and they're connecting. But they're connecting to my story, they're connecting to the book. Whereas, I'm not on the payroll in the school. I just say, goodbye, and off I go. And that's very valuable, because a lot of kids don't want to talk to their teacher because they say, well, they might tell the other teachers in the staff room. Whereas this stranger who just comes in, talks to them, and goes away, it can be very powerful. So I could do that for hundreds of thousands if the technology was there. I wouldn't have to be going to Belgrade and be there, or be in Johannesburg, or be in Dublin. You could just do this, but use the book as the content.
Yeah, I also like when projects are done, you don't feel corporate, and I think that's one of the problems is that I don't know, maybe I'm generalizing, but I think in Europe a lot of people are, they're not so corporate. It's more enthusiasm. And it's a bit messy in a good way, So while as I said, suddenly we have all these corporate things like Google and stuff, they're everywhere. They're just or government, education, which is also seems very government, corporate, whatever. So I like something that seems very, very authentic. It's very different. I think that's always highly motivating for kids.
I personally, maybe I'm halfway through my life, this life. That's all I want to do. I want to be real. I want to be honest. I want to talk to people who are the same. And anything else is just not for me any longer. Yeah,
that's a good point. Yeah. I don't know why I'm thinking of Braveheart.
Oh.
American movie with imaginary Scottish stuff, Okay, so the book is out or is coming out?
It's out since February 18th. So if people go to theteenagersbookoflife.com, they can get a copy.
Okay, I'll order it. Yeah, that's cool. And so I'm just thinking, I have an idea what I want to ask you. I just need to phrase it. I don't want to ask
me anything.
I don't want to ask random questions. So how do you see that? I'm just thinking, because you keep mentioning that 15,000, with the previous book in Ireland. How do you see that going beyond? What is the growth plan? How does it expand? It starts with the book in Ireland, then it has other mediums, like you're doing lectures and there is some kind of software, and it's in Ireland. Then it probably goes outside as well. Keeps growing and growing, and
so I've kind of a clear line of sight of how that can work. So the book for me was, people think of the book and then that's it, but for me that's just the content. It's how you then disseminate that. So the way I'd like to do it is, obviously there'll be an audio book in July for people all over the world to listen to, and I'm narrating it myself. And that'll be offered free in a Spotify playlist, because I wanted to get into the lives of teenagers, and they listen to that rather than buy an audiobook or buy the book. And then the next stage after that is, how do we, ed tech companies around the world, talking to them. There's a Canadian publisher that's interested in it. So, for the US or Canadian market, because I own the rights to the book, I could potentially sell the rights for distribution in bigger markets, where the book finds a much bigger audience than it would otherwise. Now the edtech company could take it and decide, we want to use this as content for schools all around the world. That Google might be one of those, for example. I don't really mind how it's used, as long as many young people as possible get to read the poetry in it, or get to hear the quotes, or just feel the book and let it kind of wash into them. Because what I'm hearing from teenagers is, I wish someone had said this to me earlier. I'm 18 now. Why didn't someone say this to me when I was 13? Why didn't someone tell me about death or friendship or pain? Or why didn't someone tell me my parents are doing the best they can so I was easier on them?
Yeah, but how do you think it transfers to other cultures? You know, like, I don't know, Chinese, you know, something like that. Do you think it's related maybe to Irish or English speaking, or it goes?
Possibly, but I wrote it like, because I'd been to university in North America, I wrote it with as much of a neutral cultural fingerprint as possible. Having said that, there's obviously some, like there's a chapter called Your Parents Are Idiots, and then in brackets, and so are you. And I suppose for a culture such as the Oriental or Chinese, where respect of the elderly is paramount, that might jar a little bit, but when they read into it, it's actually, that chapter is all about, you know, your parents are doing the best they can, even when it doesn't look like it.
Yeah. And did you get already, since the book is out, did you get feedback? Did someone say, you know, you're probably getting a lot of, you know, people telling you how it's working, how it's changing them, or?
Yeah, like it's funny, Nicola, I would never really have seen myself as a creative person because I can't paint. Lego, after 30 seconds of Lego, my head gets pained and I have to just lie down, you know, so I'm not exactly, I wouldn't see myself as creative. But when it comes to writing, I sometimes feel if I could write rather than speak, I'd be understood a lot easier, you know, or I'd feel I'd be understood. So when I was writing this, I was like, I had so many days where I was like, well, is anyone going to read this? Like, is this really shit? Like, am I joking? Is everyone just being nice? Like, I had 2 teenagers reading it throughout, and two parents. They read pieces, and they'd be saying, Tony, this is amazing. I've never read anything. And I said, you're just saying that because you like me. Tell me the truth. They're, no, seriously, it's good. Are you sure? So when it came out, I was like, oh my God, February 18th. Oh my God. I almost wanted to hide. And then I said, no, hold on a second. This is going to be okay. So the feedback has been, I have been blown away by it, Nicola. From the US to Germany to cities in Ireland, countryside, people are contacting me, parents and teenagers. And again, of course, that voice in my head said, they're just saying all those things to be nice, but they don't know me. So I'm presuming they're being honest.
Yeah, that's cool. Because I'm expecting, you know, that must be very, very rewarding, you know, that you have that feedback and everything, that it's, you know, it's starting to, you know, that when you feel the change and you get energy from that and you keep moving and moving, you know, that I like the feedback, that energy feedback when you are, when you do something and then you start getting the energy back, you know, you're like,
I know.
You feel even more that you have to go on and make more stuff.
Yeah, and it's funny, the night after I handed the manuscript to the company that was producing it, I felt I was just doing a small bit of training, like with a young child, you know, I don't train anywhere like I used to. And I don't miss that level of training. I was training 9 and 12 times a week. Now it might be twice a week. And a training now might be to go for a job, you know. But this night I was doing a bit of training and I was listening to Kanye West on my earphones at 10 o'clock at night in the dark on my own. And I felt this pain in my chest. And I just said, that's strange. Went to sleep. Woke up, the pain was worse. We were going on holidays the following day. So we went on holidays all week. I was in the sea, but I was like in pain and it got worse to where I couldn't talk without having to sit down. And then I got back home and I said to my wife, I think I've COVID because I've dry mouth, shortness of breath, you know, sweating. So I went straight to a hospital. And within 15 minutes, they were cutting my chest open. My lung had collapsed. When I was training the week before, spontaneous collapse. Tall, skinny guys happens. Happened to me when I was 19 playing a hurling match. I got hit.
Yeah.
So this time it happened again, but spontaneously. So I spent a week in one hospital, had to be transferred to another hospital for surgery. So for 2 months, I was like out of my mind on codeine, oxycodone, and like people were helping get the book finished. So I'd sign off on things or I'd review pieces, but I was like a blur. And but here's the reason I tell you that story. during that time, a friend of mine who was bringing meals into the hospital, the food was so shit in the hospital. Everything else about the hospital was amazing, but she'd bring me healthy food. And she said, I don't know why, but I was passing my bookshelf and this book was on it. And I said, Tony's going to read this. And she picked it off and gave it to me. And I was like, I couldn't read a magazine. I couldn't look at my phone. But for some reason, I read the book end to end in 7 days, which I'm a slow reader. People think I read a lot, but it's just I read so slowly. I'm reading the same book 6 months later. And the book was by Anthony.
The Bible.
What? It felt like it. It felt like
it's like in 7 days. Yeah.
I did 7 days.
Yeah.
Exactly. It was Awareness by Anthony de Mello.
Mm-hmm.
He was a Jesuit priest. He was very controversial because he was very much no religion, just spirituality. Like he went beyond all the religions into what it means to be a soul. And I read it and it made such sense to me because he talks a lot about approval, and human beings' thirst and need for approval is one of their greatest reasons for suffering.
Yeah.
So that made sense. So when the book came out, I had myself ready that I didn't need the approval of the book being great. And so now I'm kind of, if it sells 1 million copies, great. That way I can earn some money and keep writing, and it'll help people's lives. Brilliant. But if it doesn't, I'll survive, so it's, I'm not as attached to the outcome of the whole thing.
Okay. That's a nice quote. I like that. You're not attached to the outcome.
Most days. Some days I'm like, okay, I hope this book does help people.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's difficult, like whenever being an entrepreneur, that's entrepreneurship. You're doing social entrepreneurship or whatever you call it. I don't know what objective we see, but that's being an entrepreneur. I mean, you're doing something and you're like, whatever happens. I mean, you cannot tell, you're dedicating your money, more importantly, your time. I mean, money is not an issue. I mean, of course it is, but it's your time, because if you spend 2-3 years, I had projects where I spent 2-3 or plus years and I realized it's the wrong thing.
No.
And you cannot get back the time, and you have to take something positive from that.
Yeah.
And you have to go on to the next thing, and it kind of adds up. You're getting more experience, and then you think, like, is it going to work out? Like, before I die, am I going to get what I want? Like, am I going to be like the KFC guy? Like, am I going to make my thing at 60? Or am I going to be like this myth of Mark Zuckerberg or whoever doing something at 20? Which no, I'm not going to do that, because that didn't happen. Or maybe it did. Maybe I just want more. I don't even know. Maybe that was the peak. I have no idea, And so it's just like the point. What I realized at some point, you just have to create some kind of a stupid rules, like in sports. You're just like, okay, I'm gonna do this 2-3 years. There is a checkpoint. If not, I do the next thing, and there has to be some kind of rules, because I mean, the lifestyle is fine. I'm doing what I can. If it doesn't work out, there is still, I did something great. If it works out, that's even greater, and then I do the next thing, But
I like that having rules, because I remember an Irish entrepreneur, she's a very successful Irish entrepreneur, once said that the biggest learning she had after, say, a decade in her business was when to know when to close it.
Yeah.
And when to walk away. And that always stuck with me, because I was saying, one of the things I've learned from publishing my own book and creating like a social media platform, a team around it, is how hard it must be to publish your own. Like, you could be a brilliant author, have a brilliant book, but if you're not known, you by the big publishers, you're just a number, and you're a tiny number, like you're a decimal point. Whereas I just thought to myself, I'd like to publish other people's books who have something to say, people like you, for example, who have been through, it's like that old saying, real courage is going from failure to failure without losing enthusiasm. There's a lot of people that have good stories.
Yeah.
Like yesterday, I was passing this coffee shop, and this old man was sitting there, and it was in the sunshine. It was a lovely place in Dublin, and a nice cafe. And I said, do you mind if I sit at the end of this long chair? And he says, no, sit down. I ended up speaking to him for an hour and found out that he was on the run in the United States for an armed robbery back in Ireland that he committed. Or he didn't commit. He was jailed for 12 years, but after 3 years, there was a whole movement across the country to free him. And he had the most fascinating life. And I said to myself, you've got to write that book down before you go. Or you got to write that story down.
Yeah.
And he was a very unassuming guy. And one of the things he did again and again was he supported artists. So writers, musicians that went on to become very famous, like the U2, for example. He supported those guys when they were only starting. And he did that again. And if I told you his name, which I won't, you wouldn't know him.
Yeah.
But the people who are now seen as global stars of writing or poetry or music, they know him because he helped them when they were at the bottom.
Oh, that's funny.
And I thought that was amazing. Just this stranger on the street.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. So that's in Dublin, yeah.
Dublin, yeah.
Okay, that's a good tourist pitch.
Yeah, yeah.
That's like a great ad for visiting Dublin, because we finally, it's like, I'm thinking where I'm gonna go first when this
Come to Dublin. I'll introduce you to him.
Yeah, that's a nice pitch. I'm just thinking like, okay, I'm sitting next to, because I like casual chats, but Serbia is like a place full of veterans with lots of weird ideas, like, and as me being an ultra liberal person, being in the most right-wing country, and I learned to talk to random people very carefully. I like to provoke them and I like to talk long, but so I'm just thinking that's a nice, if you have that kind of conversations in Dublin with random people, that's really cool. That's funny. In America, I try to talk to a lot of random people, and also there is a lot of crazy stories, but you also have to be a bit
discerning.
Yeah, a bit careful politically, otherwise.
Yeah, true. Especially
but
now.
I respect that. I don't see that wrong. I don't disagree with anybody, and I like to talk. But that's an easy story. So I'm just thinking, because me and my girlfriend are really fans of like random encounters. We do road trips in States, and we just like to talk to a lot of people. Also in Serbia, we like to talk when we go skiing and stuff. But that's one of the better stories that I heard of. It's like the guy was in jail, and then he cannot go to States, and he was with you too. I mean, that's no wonder you spent like an hour. I think usually, I don't know what is the longest we spent on a. I think that's quite long. Usually you spend like 30 minutes with one person. Like they have to stop, and you have to stop because you were all going somewhere. Yeah. 1 hour is like really, really long. I don't know.
A few times I went to go, and then he'd start another story. And in my head, I was saying, these can't be true. And I was about to leave. And this woman came along. She was a doctor, and she knew him because she was in the area. She has a general practice, and he lives in the area. And she said, has he told you about this and that? And I said, yeah. And she said, do you believe him? And I said, well, I think.
Oh, why not?
Yeah. Why not? She said, well, go home and Google him, and you'll see that he's only told you 5% of the full story. So I went home and Googled him, and I was there. Holy shit, this guy is a movie.
Yeah.
And here he is sitting, drinking coffee and smoking a cigarette on the street.
But that's the point. Like, a lot of people are like that. It's just that people don't talk.
That's how I like
that. People are very, very crazy. And they do funny
Interesting.
stuff. I mean, your life is like, I try to explain it at the start. I mean, how can I explain your life? I mean, like, you were an athlete, I was like getting confused, not in a negative way, but it's like so many things, and I'm deliberately avoiding also famous people and stuff like that, because I want to focus.
I'm not famous in Ireland in a certain like niche, perhaps. But like, what's fame like? You even ask yourself that question. What is that even? It's you're known to be someone, but you're not really known. People don't know you. People don't know me. I'm very open. Scream at the Sky was so popular because I was so open about my own mental challenges to try and perform at the top. But most athletes never talk about that stuff. So people think they're bulletproof, but they're not.
Yeah. So
many athletes emailed me after reading that book saying, you could have been telling my story, but I would never let people know that's how I am on the inside. Well, so I think there's a lot of lonely people because of that.
Yeah. Well, you're an extrovert, intense guy, like I guess I am. So that's how we behave. That's the point of being extrovert. It's like when you say you liberate others, and they can feel easier. That's the service.
You say about liberate, it's funny, when I started writing, I said to myself, all I want to do is kind of write about stuff that interests me in a way that people feel less fearless and more understood. And that's kind of my guiding, my North Star is less fear, more understood, more freedom.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's I mean, when you think about all the software, when you think about social media, I mean, it's all about writing. But people are writing actually a lot, you know, because writing a status on Facebook, on Twitter, and all these things, you know, they're all, people sit down and they write. And there is a specific psychological process when you write and when you read. You know, it's better than talking because people are not controlled. Talking is kind of very impulsive.
Yeah.
At least maybe for us. I don't know how it is to all people, but it's very impulsive and it's out of control. And it's hard to remember what you hear and it's hard to think about what you're saying. Yeah. But when we are writing Twitter, Facebook status and all these other things, you know, there is a specific process to it. You know, writing is particular. I don't know. I didn't study it a lot, but I know that it is, you know, very particular. You know, it's like
definitely stuff can come from a different place. It's all really communication though, isn't it? When it comes down to it.
Yeah, yeah. But I like that people are writing much more than ever before. You know, they just don't realize it. You know, like big books, but it's also all the other things, you know, like all the new things that everybody's writing, you know, emails, Twitter statuses and stuff like that. Yeah. Anyway, always the last question is, do you have any questions for me?
Oof. Do I have any questions for you? You mentioned about you're not having a great relationship with your parents. Why do you think that's
another question? It's too long. It's not like a secret. It's just like it's too long, you know, right?
Okay.
It's very complicated, like a series of events. It's not a bad relation. It's like just certain things need to be sorted out. It's not like I'm gonna call them later and
okay.
You know, so I go on Sundays and it's just not perfect, you know. So
yeah, of course. What is?
It's not like a disaster. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Why do you do these interviews?
Okay, well, I'm trying to I'm a designer, so I design products just like you. You're a writer, so it's the same thing, you know. Like we want to make something, and that can change behavior of other people towards positive, towards what we think is positive, but it is positive, you know. And so I think my main function is to design, like software, and just like your main function is to write and to speak, you know, to give lectures or something. So I'm very happy that I found my main function, you know, that I'm not spending time, because I have an ambition, just like you spoke about making software, and I always want to write a book. Like everybody wants to make software, everybody wants to write a book, everybody wants to run a marathon, you know, but I know that this is my main function because I've done it for 25 years, every day of my life, and I completed it many times, I failed many times, but basically that's what I do. Just like you are with books, you know, you end up making a book, you know, and it's great that you have a publishing company. So, but to do better design, you know, designing a software is there are things that are living, you know. So design is very long, and it's like you talk to a lot of people. It's open design, you know. That's focusing on that now. I'm just thinking a lot about open design and how to include more people. So I just like talking to other people because it stimulates my ideas. Like while I'm listening to you, you're changing how I think about things, and you know, I'm going to process it, and you know, I publish these videos, and hopefully other people can see that. You know, my partner, my co-founder Andrea, he's doing more corporate videos that we put under our brand, you know, and but these videos I put on my personal, and because I just want to be, you know, inspired, you know, and hopefully that inspires the audience a bit. I mean, if I have a positive experience, maybe they will, you know.
They will too.
Yeah. So
can I ask?
I will say that it's research. I would research, not promotion, because this is too raw, too uncut, too long, too random to be any kind of promotion. People, I was joking with my friends in Singapore. I was like, nobody's gonna watch this. They're all gonna start and quit at 10 minutes. Nobody's gonna reach this. I don't know. This is like a minute 48 or something. Nobody's gonna do that.
Is it a minute 48? Oh my God.
I have no idea. Yeah. But I'm guessing.
Okay, I have another question. So much more interesting. Well, it's. I'm curious about this one. where do you think we go when we die?
I don't know. That's a, I
Maybe we
have,
started with that question.
yeah, that's a difficult one. Yeah.
What's your
Well, I'm an atheist, so I don't believe we go anywhere, which is very scary, and that fear is very motivating. I mean, that fear is the driver behind everything that I'm doing. And I'm a little bit old. I didn't know I was older than you, like 3 years. I mean, nothing, but I mean, as you know, as years are ticking by, you're more motivated by fear, and you're more focused and driven. Like in sports, you have to perform something, which is also physical and mental performance. So I like that fear, I like that fear of death, and because I believe we are going anywhere, and I think that fear is more occurring, motivator, and it's also a good connection between people, because I work with a lot of I don't know, successful people and stuff, and I know they all feel the same, and sometimes we talk about it. It's funny to talk about someone who has succeeded making a big company or something, and you see that behind that there are two basic motivations: is fear of death and love for children.
Yeah, that's the two uniting forces, isn't it?
Yeah, so you can connect to anybody with that, and that's a very good thing. And although they might be Christian or some other,
it doesn't matter.
But there is the fear is there, But I was thinking recently, I'm very sorry. Are you religious?
No, I wouldn't be. I would consider myself spiritual. I definitely believe there's something there, but I'm not.
I'm zero. Like, I'm completely fat, because I believe that I don't like to do things halfway. So I mean, keep in mind, I go to Vatican when there is no lockdown, like once or twice a year. I will Vatican.
Why, if you're atheist?
Because it's extremely inspiring. I don't know. I like Orthodox churches as well, and I like Istanbul. I go to Hagia Sophia, and I go to the Blue Mosque. I'm probably the most religious-looking atheist person in the world.
Yeah, you're the only one in the building.
Yeah. Because I love going to Vatican. It's like to the Basilica. Every time I go, I'm like, so amazing, and I really feel great. And I mean, last time I was there, I saw the Pope actually.
Wow.
I was, and it was like no security, nothing. He was just like passing by doing the mass. It was amazing. It was in March or April last year. We were going to States, so we stopped in Rome, and of course we had to go to Vatican, wait in the line and everything. But I was just thinking that, maybe there should be a new religion, because I was just this morning explaining to kids over breakfast that, that we don't know what happened before Big Bang, and the world universe is basically, as I understood, one of the theories is that it's going to know nothing. We're just at the beginning. For another 100 billion years, there's going to be nothing. Black holes are going to eat everything, and then black holes are going to go into Hawking radiation. Basically, it's going to be empty space with nothing, or a lot of Hawking radiation. And we all agree it's like fucking stupid. So it's like really stupid. Like, we don't know how it started. It's never going to go back, because Irena was still thinking like it's going to contract again, which was the previous theory, but it's not. It's just going to go and nothing. So it's like so retarded. And I always remember what Neil deGrasse Tyson, he said, religion is always when there is no science.
Yeah.
And he said it in a negative way, but I'm thinking, well, that's actually like a good thing. Why not? It's like, you can, just like philosophy and religion, can imagine these things where there is nothing. We don't know anything about it. Like, I don't know if people figured out why we hiccup or yawn. Maybe religion can explain that. We don't know what happened before Big Bang, or what's going to happen after the universe is like nothing in 100 billion years, according to one theory. So I don't know. We are going somewhere. I don't know what it is. I think
you don't know where you're going.
Yeah, I think it's good to have some definition, whatever it is. It's just that it has to be a little bit more convincing. I grew up with all this sci-fi and philosophy books, so it needs to be a little bit more convincing than, Christianity was like maybe a great story a couple of thousand years ago, but, I read a lot of things when I was a kid. I watched a lot of movies. I need something a little bit more, the Vatican is very impressive, but it doesn't grasp me, that it doesn't explain. I don't accept it as explanation with.
I think we're all a bit too smart in some ways, intellectually, to buy it. So there must be something. Yeah. It's funny. I started out before the Teenager's Book of Life. I started out to write a book about life, death, and the bit in between.
Yeah.
And where we go when we die. And I kind of was like, I think I'll shelve that for a few years.
Good luck, yeah. Well, it's good that you're writing, because I mean, there is a lot of philosophers, obviously, and they're extremely precise, and they have like 1,000 years of debates on those issues, and that it becomes very heavy.
Yeah.
I think that, I mean, I'm sure there is people in children's psychology and science and education who are dealing with issues that you're trying to deal, but I really like when someone just shows up and does stuff. I think there is also a lot of benefit. I always say, like airplanes were made by people fixing bicycles. All the scientists and engineers couldn't do fucking nothing. It was like fucking bicycle repair guys who said, okay, we'll do it.
I like that. But on that note, Nicola, it was so good to meet you properly, talk to you. I've never talked to you like this before.
Yeah, awesome.
Well, I think you're looking great.
Yeah, I lost a bit of weight, so long hair. My hair was wet from washing, so I have a hat.
That's okay. It suits you.
Cool.
Great
Talk to you soon. Ciao, ciao.
Ciao.
Bye.
Bye.